What's going on, growers? It's James Prigioni coming to you live from Jersey. 8 years ago, I started to turn this normal backyard into a garden. So today, I want to show you what it looks like now and what I'm harvesting from it. Let's go! Let's start things off the best way that I know how in New Jersey. That's by grabbing some fresh, homegrown Jersey tomatoes. And our tomatoes are just starting to really come into their full. They're looking fantastic. First, we'll cut one of these nice, beautiful orange tomatoes. And there's nothing like homegrown, organically grown tomatoes like this, especially from Jersey. So sweet, so good. We've been making tomato sandwiches and eating them all different ways. Now we're getting to the point where we're gonna have a bunch extra, so we're gonna be able to give a lot of them away, which is one of the funnest parts. So we'll grab a couple of these, even though they're about a day or two away. I've got some monster soldakis over there, and then some other big ones too I'm gonna grab. If you've been watching the channel for years, then you know the next tomato I'm gonna show. This is the soldaki. It's one of my favorite all-time varieties. This is an heirloom tomato. It's a big beefsteak. It's a potato leaf tomato, how it grows with the leaf pattern, and it's relatively disease resistant. It grows fantastic for me, and it always grows these beautiful monsters. Look at this thing here. So this thing is an heirloom, organic, and just look at the color and the shape and the flavor. This thing makes my favorite tomato sandwiches probably. So I always grow this one. Variety selection is huge with tomatoes. Here's another one right down here on the same plant, another soldaki. Not perfect as the other one, but still a great tomato. And then we've got some ones right here that are just getting ready to ripen. You'll see this one's coming up soon. Then as we move down here, we've got some yellow tomatoes, nice and ripe, a couple beauties. And then it looks like some Rosa de Burns right next to me. I'll grab some of those too. So I'll just grab this whole set right here. Beautiful set. Rosa de Burn, another heirloom tomato. A great one. And we've got a couple more down here we'll grab. And then I'm pretty sure this one's the pineapple tomato right next to it here. Looks like a nice ripe one. We'll cut that baby off and look at the color, the striping and stuff on that one. It's a beautiful tomato. And I just wanted to move up and show you how I'm growing some of these tomatoes. You'll notice that we're growing them up these strings with the trellis that we made. This way we're getting extra space with that vertical. We're getting a lot of light and airflow, so we're avoiding some more of those diseases, or at least reducing the chance of them. And it's working fantastic for us. The main way we're keeping them up, and it's making it so easy this year, is using these tomato clips. I've showed them before, but they really have made things a lot easier for me. I'll put a link in the description, but we've still got some more tomatoes. I've got a bunch of these large beefsteaks just from this section. I've got a lot of other stuff. Let me grab some small cherry tomatoes from here and some more over there and just keep moving through the garden. We've got so much stuff to harvest, not just tomatoes. So we're in peak production now. All right, now we're gonna grab some of these cherry tomatoes. We've got so many cherries in here. This is a great variety. I've got a bunch of different varieties. As a lot of you know, the Sun Gold is my favorite. So we're gonna put some of those in. We've got some Sun Golds over here. And I'm gonna harvest all the cherry tomatoes that I can, well, all the tomatoes I can today that are ripe. This way, a lot of the other ones start ripening, and we keep up that consistent production. These things will produce, as I've said many times, up until the frost. So we got a lot to harvest. I love these cherries so much. And I want to bring you to a section to my right here that gets a little more shade than some of my other sections of tomatoes. But if you have a section that gets a decent amount of shade, the cherry tomatoes are going to be the ones you want to grow because they don't need as much light to ripen, and it's a short amount of time for them to ripen. Basically, the smaller the tomato, the quicker it ripens. Makes sense. Let's get some more cherries from this section here. Beautiful ones too. And more as I move up. This is just what happens when you invest in the soil and stuff. And what we did here was we put a 1 foot raised bed in width, and then it's about 5 or 6, 7 feet long. And then we just cultivated some soil into there. It kind of reminds me of what Masanobu Fukuoka says and what Joel Salatin talked about. This idea of like a temporary disturbance or a one-time cultivation, one-time disturbance in order to get the soil in the right scenario. Then you only have to just add stuff in the future. So one time I put this bed in. Now all I'm gonna really have to do is just, add some consistent compost and stuff through the years, and we're just gonna get this continued growth. So one time I came in, made a little temporary disturbance, made a huge difference. I've got some more Rosa de Burns over here I need to grab, and some other kinds of tomatoes too as I move down. And it's definitely super hot out here, but that's okay. The tomatoes are doing well through it. And if you're in a super, super hot section, you'll notice how I prune my tomatoes where they're getting a good amount of sunlight. But some of your tomatoes could blister if it's way too hot out. So what you want to do is leave some of these fan leaves sometimes around the tomatoes. This way they don't blister and scar some of your tomatoes. Looks like Tuck wants a snack, so we're gonna have to grab him something. He's always dedicated, always loyal out here. So we're gonna turn around, grab some carrots and stuff. I'm sure I got something over here for him. We're growing a pepper, you'll notice, in this just filtered shade of this peach tree, young peach tree. Right next to that, we've got carrots. Carrots are that root crop, so they're completely different from the peppers. Different growing area, so they can occupy the space growing right one with another. Hey Tuck, you want a carrot boy? Maybe he'll harvest this one himself. Want a carrot boy? Want a carrot? Right here, boy. He'll probably find his way in. He just gotta use his nose. He's got a good nose. Might be hard for him to pull out though. These are pretty big carrots, I think. You got it, boy. Throw some hearts down in the comments for Tuck. This guy's a beast. You got it, boy. Come on, keep going at it. I'll loosen it up for you. I loosened it up for him. There you go, boy. There it is. Good boy. Look at that carrot. That's a nice one, huh, boy? Oh yeah, he always pulls the tip off, you'll notice, and throws it away. He knows, and then he goes for the sweet stuff. So that's a little technique I learned from him too. Tuck teaches me stuff in the garden all the time. So we'll let him just continue to snack on that because we have a lot of harvesting and some other stuff we need to do. We're only in the young food forest. This one, garden, I only put in about 3 or 4 years ago. And the other one I put in 8 years ago. So we're not even to the section that has been, has been growing fertility and stuff through the years. But look at these carrots. Really nice shape, really nice size. And again, always Tuck approved. We know that they're good tasting too because look at this guy. He's gonna stay busy on that carrot. Let's move down to another section. I wanna show you some stuff that I've actually replanted and how I'm looking towards the fall, not just focused on the harvest we have right now. I think Tuck is thirsty too because it's so hot out here, so he's probably getting some water from that carrot. We do have a water bowl out here for him because we don't want him drinking some of the sitting water. Here's a section where I already replanted some of the stuff. So we took out some of the brassicas that have finished. We've got a next round of beets going in, or that are in. We've got some more zucchini, some cucumbers. Here's some Swiss chard and stuff, and you'll notice here too, the kale, a lot of the kale has gotten bit really bad by some of the bugs. That's because we hadn't sprayed it recently, but all the new growth is beautiful. That's because we sprayed it with a new spray that we just started using this year. And that spray is called BT, Bacillus thuringiensis, I believe it's called. It's an organic spray. It's basically just a bacteria, so it's like a beneficial bacteria or just a bacteria. We spray it on the plants, and that basically kills off a lot of the insects and a lot of things that are going to feed and eat on the leaves. So we're using that one this year. It's an organic one. It's made a huge difference for me, and I think that's one of the reasons I got a lot of cabbages and stuff. I still have a few more that I need to harvest, but I'm going to put a link for that in the description if you guys want to try that out. And we've got some more brassicas coming up, a new round, all radishes here looking real well, and then we've got cucumbers along the outside. So we're really going to be harvesting a lot of stuff going late into the season, but there's so many more things I need to show you. Tuck's hanging out in the shade, being a good boy, not digging holes in our beds. This guy's the best. There are a few more things that I want to grab from this 3-year-old garden before I move to the 8-year-old one. Just a couple more things I want to harvest. So right here we've got a cabbage. Like I mentioned, I kept a few ones late. This is a small cabbage, but we already have the next round of cabbage planted. So we've really been eating a lot of cabbage around here. And it's really good. It's a small one, but it's packed with flavor and still delicious. And then here we've got a lot of carrots that I need to get onto harvest too, because I want to get another round of carrots planted. This is why I have carrots that are doing really well late into the season, so they get super sweet, because when the ground gets really cold and starts to freeze, that's when all the sugars in the carrots come out. So we got so many carrots to harvest, and we got a bunch of different kinds in here. And I'm gonna harvest most of the rest of my beets today. A lot of them are getting massive. Look at this beet here. Thing's big. And you can see, look, we've got them growing so close to one another. So we're gonna get most of those. This way I can plant, as you saw, I've had another section already planted for beets. We've got the next round. So we'll just get all these so I can plant something else. But not bad. I pulled a few from just another square foot over there, so it's a good amount of beets. We've got carrots, and I've got zucchini and stuff that I need to grab next, and so many cucumbers and just more and more stuff. We'll put those beets down and grab some zucchini, but it looks like Tuck actually started to dig a hole in the kale right behind me, so let's go check on him. Just want to see. And this is the second time he's dug this hole in the spot, and I can't really blame him because I allow him to be in here. And sometimes he'll do some negative, but he looks so cute doing it. And he needs to cool off, this guy. He's doing a lot of work out here. But, you know, sometimes he'll dig some holes, but that's just a part of it. I'd rather have him be out here and be a part of it rather than being fenced out or something. I need him in the garden with me. He encourages me, and he's part of the garden. Let's grab some of those zooks. Here's a couple zucchinis we'll grab. I like them when they're this size. About 6 to 8 inches is good. It's a nice one here, and I'll grab one more that's right here. And we've been eating so many zucchini. I'm doing a good job this year of keeping up with them. But I've got a whole nother round of zucchinis planted that I want to show you right here along this bordered edge. And they're doing real well. So as my other zucchinis have started to slow down, you'll notice that they're starting to wilt a little bit when it gets hot out. They're just a little overworked and they had a little bit of pest damage. So they're just, you know, they're getting a little tired out. So I still have the next round. But while we're waiting for that next round, we're making sure we get some of these ones that are still finishing off. And then the cucumbers, this has been an incredible year for cucumbers for me. I've gotten so many, it's been tough to keep up. There's a lot of cucumbers. So this one is doing real well. This thing is growing along the fence. Another one on the other side. And then there's some cucumbers that I missed. I just noticed this one today and I'm gonna go show you. It's the white Armenian cucumber. I showed you it the other day, but I missed this one. I don't even know how I did, hiding underneath here. So we'll harvest that. And there's a bunch of other melons and cucumbers in here. Most of the melons aren't ripe yet. Some of the cucumbers are, but there's also a bunch of grapes that are starting to ripen on that side. Let me grab some of those grapes and taste a few of them and then move into the 8-year-old food forest. I have a bunch of cucumbers that I have to grab along the fence here before I get those grapes. And you'll notice we use these fences not only to keep out critters and stuff, but to grow a lot of food up. When you grow your cucumbers and all your stuff up the fence line, you're gonna get that added vertical space and you could get those bigger harvests. So I'm gonna grab, you'll see about 5, 6, 7 cucumbers just in this one little spot. Got a nice big one down here. Then we'll move forward and grab some of these grapes here. I'm so excited for this whole grape wall. Look at the whole fence line. It's like, it's the living fence. That's how we know we're getting good utilization out of it. So look at these grapes, really starting to ripen in here. Nice early one. Look at this thing. And they're getting a little bites on them, but that's okay. They're still so good. This is one of the first earlier ones. So sweet. I showed you last week, but we have so many more grapes too, even along this fence line that just haven't ripened yet. Up here too, you'll notice we have a bunch. And then as we move down here, there's a bunch up here and then down there. So we're trying to use a little bit of the leaves to hide them because we know the birds are really getting crazy about them and they love the taste of them as much as us. I've got some wine grapes that I just want to give you a quick peek up to. The grapes where we were just at, those were table grapes. These ones here are wine grapes. They're slowly starting to ripen, but you'll notice how many grapes there are. They're supposed to be pretty small. Wine grapes are going to be much smaller. They're going to be like a thicker skin. They're going to have more seeds in them, but they're going to be like more juicy. They're specifically made for making wine. So you'll notice all these under here. So we're growing all different varieties of things because in the future I'd like to make some of my own wine out of my own grapes. I think there would be nothing better. In New Jersey, some things that I love growing so much are tomatoes and grapes. Like those two things, you've got a perennial on each side, and even figs too are fun to grow. But these things, I'm excited for them because this is the first year that I've shown that that I'm getting some actual wine grapes. And these little dots on them, I think they're supposed to be there. That's kind of just a variety that happens in some of the grapes. Like the interlocking grape, if you want to look at that, it kind of has those little dots on them. That's just typical to the variety. I'm in the 8-year-old food forest now, and I want to show you some of these tomatoes first. Look at this variety. Look how many tomatoes this thing has on it. It's insane. It's the most productive I've ever seen. And look at the beauty of the tomatoes. I'll put the variety down low for you. Look at this. A good size, beautiful color, and they're delicious tomatoes. Really good. And there's another variety right below you. I think that's the Castelluto Genovese. That's a really cool one too, with those strong ribs on it. So I need to make sure I harvest, 4, 5, 6 of those. And over here we've got some nice cherry tomatoes too. But one thing you'll notice is this section, I'm planting directly into the ground with the wood chip mulch instead of planting into the raised beds. And you'll notice some of these tomatoes right here. I think these are probably some of the healthiest tomatoes in the whole garden. So one of the reasons I think that is because I've built this soil for years. The last 6, 7, 8 years, I've had this wood chips down. I've focused on building a good soil, but I also have good soil for tomatoes. I live in New Jersey, which has a sandy soil. So tomatoes like that sandy soil. And I'll show you guys in just a minute, but my tomatoes in the pallet raised bed that I built aren't doing as well as these ones. And one of the reasons I think that is because when they're in this section with the thick mulch down in the natural soil that I've built through the years, it's got such good water retention that the level of water, how saturated it is, stays consistent. It doesn't dry out a lot. When this raised bed that I'm going to bring you to now, that thing has a little bit of uneven watering, and what can happen sometimes when you get uneven watering is what can lead to some blossom end rot. So I've had a few issues, not too bad with the blossom end rot in here, but this is that same variety right here. You'll notice This is the tomato, and as we look up, it looks really good, but not as good as the one in wood chips. So I think one of the factors was that even watering. So some people will think a lot of times that the blossom end rot is because they have a lack of calcium in the soil, but sometimes you have enough calcium, you just don't have the right pH, or you have a very uneven watering. So that's a big thing when it comes to tomatoes and all plants in general. So there's some stuff that I need to harvest in here, and there's some big monsters on the other side, some soldaki I'll show you. But like I said, for this time, this year, in my scenario, I think that the tomatoes in the wood chips from soil I built years ago have done the best. Hey, look at these monsters, two right next to each other too. I'm gonna cut those. And look at these. So let's go check out some more of the raised beds where the peppers and stuff are just doing so good. Get a couple of these tomatoes. And then let's move to the next bed where we have some lettuces, and we were harvesting some of these green peppers, some of the larger ones, and some of the peppers are starting to turn on us, the colors too. I've got a lot more cherry tomatoes in here, basil, but I want to bring you over to some of the grapes that are still performing really well. This section that they haven't started ripening yet, but there's so many in here as we move in. And it's cool, there's one spot here where the spiders have like decided that they want to, I think, take this spot over and just protect the grapes, I think, for me as much as I can. So we're having nature do the work a little bit for us. This is my favorite spot to be in the garden. So this was one of the first areas that I even put in. The grapes were one of the first plants that I put in. I've always wanted this thing where I can hang out underneath the shade of the grapes and just reach up and grab them. So the fact that you can make that a reality, that's one of the reasons that I live to garden. I love doing this stuff, it's my passion. I love being out here. This is that spot where, look at the spiders. The spider webs have all taken over the spot, and they're almost like protecting these grapes. Look at the harvest. These are the table grapes. You'll notice the size, way bigger than the other ones. And the Concord grapes are the ones that are so hardy, or not hardy, they're so disease resistant from the black rot. So let me show you some of the Concord grapes as we move to here. But you'll notice the forest feel. So this is what we're talking about with a food forest. It's got the absolute forest feel. You can get lost in here. I've got so many things over top of me, and I've got things even down below me. So you'll notice we've got the Concord grapes growing in this section right here, doing real well. I just cannot wait for them to start ripening, to start changing color. I know it's not too far away. And in that section, you'll notice we've got the grapes there. That's the vine one. Below us, we've got strawberries. Some of these peaches fell, but we've got strawberries growing here. To the left of me, over here, we've got some blackberries that are ripening. So some of these blackberries are ready to eat. And you can see the birds, they're the ones who are getting to a lot of them first. You've got to be clever and find the good ones like here. And this blackberry is in full production, while the other blackberry I have just finished up. So we're extending the blackberry harvest. If you guys have been with us since the beginning of the year, you know that, like, what was it, May or something, we started eating strawberries, then raspberries, and then gooseberries, and then just every kind of berry, blackberries, anything you could think of. We get that perennial yield while we're also getting the annuals, increasing the harvests. And above me here, we have the peach tree. And this peach tree hasn't done great this year. The curculio really hit it hard. There still are some peaches on it. This other peach tree is doing better, but that's kind of the give and take that you're gonna have when you grow a food forest like this. If I just put one peach tree in this whole entire section, just focused on the one peach tree, I'm sure I could get a bigger harvest than if I did it here, but then I'd be losing the grapes, the strawberries, the blackberries, all that other additional things that come with it. So I like that bigger system yield. A lot of these have been bitten by the curculio, as you'll notice, but some of them are still ripening and doing real well. So the big mistake that I made this year, and there's more as we come in here, the big mistake that I made this year was I didn't stay on top of pruning enough, and then I really didn't spray as much with the surround as I should have, and that's my own fault because I'm the kind of person where I have this like blessing and curse where I can get super hyper focused on certain things, but then sometimes I let other things slide because I get focused on a certain section. So this year I was so big on like those square foot gardening raised beds that I let a few things like slide off to the side, but I made sure I journaled that this year and I don't make the same mistake next year. So here's a peach that looks like it got bit and it's ripening prematurely. But we'll still taste it and see how it is because the other ones aren't ripe yet. So not completely ripe, still decent. I would say they probably still need a couple weeks before they're completely ripe. So we'll come back and taste those when they're all done. But as an early taste, It's a good little appetizer, I guess. That's today's video, growers. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you feel encouraged to take a piece of your backyard and turn it into a garden. You don't have to go as crazy as I am, because you're probably not as crazy as I am. You don't have to turn the whole thing into a huge garden, a food forest, and basically just like, you know, natural habitat with a bunch of stuff in it. But you can grow some of your own food in your own backyard, and it will make all the difference. To be able to come out and grab some fresh tomatoes and to be able to give a lot of these away to your friends and stuff, it's a great feeling knowing that it's organic, it's grown from your hand, and a lot of people are going to enjoy it. So if you guys enjoyed this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share with your friends. Don't forget to check out the merch down low. And whenever you're doing any shopping on Amazon, start your shopping with our Amazon affiliate link. Doesn't cost you anything, gives me and Tuck just a little piece. We'll be back at you guys with another one real soon. We